Good morning and welcome to It's How You'll Be Remembered. I am Julie Jones, your host and the CEO of Today's Professionals. And today I want to talk to you about something that I've been seeing a lot in articles and social media, and I've been getting some emails about this, and that is dealing with office drama. I'm telling you, we all have drama in our lives, right? So, how do you handle drama? So, if you're seeing this live, be sure and say hello. I want to hear from you. And I also want to hear your thoughts on office drama. More and more companies who have been remote are calling people back to at least a hybrid format for work. And those who have been hybrid, a lot of those companies are calling people back into the office 5 days a week now. And so with that, we're seeing some blurred lines with dress and the way people are showing up to the office. But we also are seeing some things that are causing some conflict. And so I wanted to address those today to give you some tips on how you can avoid the office drama. So the first thing that I want to talk about is something we've already addressed. I've done a radio tour on it, and that is the annoying habits of coworkers. We're just having to get used to being together. It's almost like we're living together because we spend 8 hours a day with each other. And so the break room is one of the areas of contention. Taking food that is not yours, heating fish in the microwave. There was even an article that came out recently about somebody who cooked a steak in the microwave on the plate, the rotisserie plate that's in the microwave. They didn't even put it on a plate and cover it up. And it really caused some drama. It also cleaning up after yourself. If you get a coffee cup out, then put it in the dishwasher. Don't expect other people to clean up after you. And so these are things that we've discussed, but I wanted to go ahead and bring this up again because this is something that can usually be handled very discreetly and very carefully, usually by the office manager who's seeing it. Whoever is seeing the mess that needs to be cleaned up, that person usually can handle this pretty quickly, and it's not doesn't need to go any higher. However, if you are seeing something repeatedly, it would be okay for you to go directly to the source. And so this is something that's always of contention. Do I go ahead and escalate it now, or do I try to address it with the person? And I'm going to say this is really up to you because you're in the situation. But the best practice is always try to address conflict or anything like that, within you and the other person. Just handle it. If it needs escalation, then you can do that. But if the office manager isn't seeing the issues in the kitchen, or if you have gone to heat your food up and there's steak being cooked in there, and it's, you're like, now I can't use it, it would be okay for you to go to the person and talk to them. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You want to remove the emotion from this. And you want to just say, are you cooking the steak in there? Okay, so, and then you just might want to just say, when you cook steak on the microwave plate like that, there's a hazard there, that for the health hazard, because the steak has, could have bacteria in it, and now we've got to clean the microwave. So I only have 30 minutes for my lunch, and so now it's cutting into my time. So could we talk about better way to cook your steak in there so that it's more efficient and healthier? Maybe somebody just didn't know. So you just want to just assume and go in it with an attitude of, I want to solve the problem. I don't want to I don't want to blame you. Don't be angry and say, what are you, call people names, but you just want to go and address the issue. And certainly you want to address the issue. If you catch somebody eating your food that you brought, leftovers or whatever, and they took your food, you certainly can say, hey, that was mine. Do you see my name on this? Which I want to say, if you're not clearly marking your food, and put your name where everyone can see it, then you need to make sure you're doing that, because you want to do everything you can to avoid any of these issues, right? So what can you be doing to be proactive? So writing your name on it, because now if your name is on it and somebody clearly took it, well, now we've got a huge problem, right? So you can go and address that with them. Say, you're eating my food, see my name is right there. And then, tell them, what are you going to do? Are you going to buy me a new sandwich? Or are you going to, what are you going to do? Because now I don't have any food to eat. And so you can ask them for them to help you with that. But being good at solving these problems really goes to keep the culture intact. Because when you start to escalate and you start to go and talk about it to other people and saying, do you hear what Julie did? She took my food, and you're stirring up the drama, that then makes something bigger than it needs to be. And so for a while, it could be kind of not fun to be at work. So, but if you go and handle it with an intent to solve the problem, and then just ask how we can solve it, or get the person who's cooking the steak to help clean the microwave, or whatever it is, make sure you're just handling it. And then that way it's not, I'm tattletelling, right? I'm not stirring up drama. I'm not gossiping, which that brings us to my second point, which is gossiping. So this is a huge one in a lot of offices. And it really starts with somebody who's just disgruntled, or maybe somebody doesn't like somebody else in the office. And this happens. I mean, sometimes we don't like everybody, and sometimes we don't get along. But the best practice, if you don't like somebody, is to keep your distance from them. You don't have to make it so obvious, especially if it's something that they've not done anything wrong. You just don't mesh with them. And that happens because we all have different energies and different values. And, it could be that there's a reason that you don't like them. Maybe they walk around bad mouthing you all the time. And that would be something that would need to be handled, right? You would need to address that with them and say, what are you saying? Like, why are you saying that about me? And try to solve the problem. But if you're not going to try to solve the problem and get to the bottom, maybe it's a misunderstanding. And that if you just had the conversation, you could get to the bottom of it, and you'd realize that it's not really that big of a deal, and that maybe they're not really that bad of a person, and you can get along with them. But you have to be the good problem solver. And to do that, you have to remove the emotion from it and just stick with the facts. Jefferson Fisher is a person on most platforms. He's pretty new to social media, but he teaches people how to have these conversations. And I listen to a lot of his content and totally agree with him. So if this is resonating and you're thinking, I want more ideas, you certainly can reach out to me. But I also would say follow Jefferson Fisher. I think he offers some really good advice right here on the platforms. But, that's something about office gossip really, really gets to me, because this can destroy culture quickly. And this is why people leave jobs. People most of the time don't leave jobs, they leave people. They leave a manager or they leave coworkers because there's a misunderstanding. I mean, I had a situation when I was really young, my first job out of college, where there was a misunderstanding about me. I mean, I kept to myself. I would come in and I would try to be happy and helpful, but my job was in outside sales. And so I was out of the office a lot. So I didn't know that when I was not in the office, people were talking about me and they were saying things that weren't true. And so I got laid off because of drama in the office. And I was really shocked about that. And I was like, I didn't know there was drama in the office. I knew that there was some tension I could pick up on, that they didn't really like me, but I didn't know why. But then a week later, I get a call back and says, hey, we want you back because you were not the drama in the office. After you left, the drama stayed, and we figured out who it really was. And so they brought me back under a different circumstance. But that doesn't always happen. And what if I'd already found another job? And I'd be like, no, I don't think I want to go back to that because you as a manager didn't handle that very well. You as a manager didn't come to me and say what's going on or is this true? There wasn't a conversation. And most of the time when relationships end or when people leave jobs, it's really because there hasn't been a true conversation to get to the bottom of the problem. And so office gossip is one of the things that you need to be aware of. And for me, I never want to be what I call the pot stirrer. In other words, I overhear something or somebody comes and confides in me and shares something with me, and then I go and spread it or I go and talk about it. That's called a pot stirrer. And I've recently left a group because of drama, because of, people stirring the pot. And I don't like that. So I tend to be one that I just stay away from drama. I know that there are situations where you have to have conversations, and I've had to learn to have these conversations and learn not to be so emotional. That's a huge part of emotional intelligence, is being able to control your emotions and just say, hey, I want to have a conversation and I want to get to the bottom of this. So make sure you're not the one who's spreading the gossip and stirring up drama. And if you're involved in drama, make sure you go to the person and first try to solve that problem. And then if you need to escalate it, go seek help. But always keep your emotions in check. It's hard to do. But keep your emotions in check and just stick with the facts, and then try to solve that problem. The last part of this is negative attitudes, because when there's annoying coworker habits and there's office gossip and things like that, we start to see attitudes drop and people start to become negative, especially if you are, say, going through a tough time and you're oversharing at work. Oversharing was an article that came out recently about people who are going through bad times. And when people are always oversharing and bringing in their personal drama into the office, then you start seeing negative attitudes. And so you want to make sure that if you are going through tough times, you want to stay professional at the office and keep your image in check, because people want to follow you, but they're not going to follow you if you are involved in office drama or you're oversharing. And people don't need to know everything. There are parts of your life that do need to be private. And in today's world with social media, we put everything out there, right? And so we really, I think the offices and the managers that I'm talking to and my clients are really wanting to draw the line again. Instead of having blurred lines, we want to really say, when you're at the office, we want you to be professional. Now, this does not mean that if you're really close knit, and I'm talking in generalities. So if you're listening to this and you say, yeah, but there's only three of us and we're all best friends, and that, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is when you come in and you're in a large office and everybody knows your stuff, you want to keep it small and know that that's what coaches and counselors are for, is to talk through and process things that are going on in your life. Right now, I'm talking to a lot of moms right now who are really sad because their children are going to college. And they are just sad because this is a huge change for everyone. When a child leaves the house and goes away to college, this is their first time to start their own life. And now you've got parents at home who are just, heartsick, because it's bittersweet. It's great to see your child grow up, but then again, it's a hard adjustment. And so if you are doing that and you're going in and you're just really sad all the time, make sure you seek a counselor or a coach, somebody that can talk to you, that's not so attached to you, not involved in your life. It's the same thing, and I'm guilty of this too. When you have your first grandbaby, and that's the cutest child that ever was born, ever in the whole world. And so you just want to come in every day and talk about the new things that are happening and all the things, and you've got new pictures and things like that. People will be kind, but that does get old when you start oversharing about all the things going on in your world. Come in and make sure you have a job to do. It's fine to share pictures occasionally, but when it becomes obsessive and it's an all day, everyday thing, It's something that you need to recognize in yourself. Again, this is part of emotional intelligence. It's part of recognizing, oh, maybe I'm too excited about this brand new grandbaby or baby, even. It's great to have that. And like I said, everyone loves it, but you can overshare. So that would be part of my advice to you is to really avoid the oversharing, avoid gossiping, do not be that gossiper, and make sure that you are one that can go and handle things by yourself, solve problems, because you want to make sure that you're keeping the culture good within your sphere of influence. You can control what you can, and then don't worry about what you can't control, and make sure that you're not getting so caught up in it that you get called in because there's drama in the office. These are all lessons that we learn, and sometimes you can be drug into it unintentionally. But just make sure you're aware of that, and that way you will then be seen as the leader, as somebody who rises above all of it. Then you'll be the one that everybody wants to follow, which leads to promotion and really leads to a happier and healthier life. If this resonated with you, be sure and follow me for more tips on how to be professional in the office, how to live your best life. And I look forward to seeing you next time.